Tonight, Kamala Harris delivered one of the most powerful speeches I have ever heard after she accepted the Democratic nomination for President of the United States. And in doing so, she didn't just lay out a hopeful vision for the future, but she rebuked the past. She rebuked Donald Trump, and she called him out in a way that upset him so much that made him completely lose control. Because she laid out the stakes of this election and why we can't go back. And in doing so, Donald Trump lost his mind, took his tiny little fingers to Truth Social, and went on one of the strangest and most unhinged posting sprees I have ever seen from Donald Trump. Kamala's excitement and enthusiasm and vision for the future has gotten into Donald Trump's head, and he just can't handle it. And before we get into all of that, I want to quickly ask you to hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. It really goes a long way in supporting this channel. Now let's get into the clip that triggered Donald Trump so much into this posting spree.
In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. Consider not only the chaos and calamity when he was in office, but also the gravity of what has happened since he lost the last election. Donald Trump tried to throw away your votes. When he failed, he sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol, where they assaulted law enforcement officers. When politicians in his own party begged him to call off the mob and send help, he did the opposite. He fanned the flames. And now, for an entirely different set of crimes, he was found guilty of fraud by a jury of everyday Americans and separately found liable for committing sexual abuse. And consider what he intends to do if we give him power again. Consider his explicit intent to set free violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers at the Capitol. His explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as the enemy. His explicit intent to deploy our active duty military against our own citizens. Consider the power he will have, especially after the United States Supreme Court just ruled that he would be immune from criminal prosecution.
Kamala Harris clearly making the case, setting the stakes in this election of the danger Donald Trump has already posed to this country and the danger he would pose with unlimited power as the president of the United States and with only the intention to serve himself. And that so triggered Donald Trump. He, like I said, went on this rage posting spree, but it started with this one. These prosecutions were all started by her and Biden against their political opponent. Me. Actually, Donald, you were found guilty by a jury of your peers, and it will be everyday Americans like Kamala Harris said who will be rejecting you again at the ballot box on November 5th. And for so many reasons, one of them being, and one of the most important, is Project 2025, the threat Donald Trump and his MAGA stooges pose to our democracy, our institutions, and our freedoms. And Kamala Harris called Donald Trump out just for that. And Donald Trump then unraveled. But first, let's check out this clip.
Potentially being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. This is what's happening in our country because of Donald Trump. And understand, he is not done. As a part of his agenda, he and his allies would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, and enact a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. And get this, he plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions. Simply put, they are out of their minds.
Kamala Harris is right. These people aren't just weird, they are crazy, they are insane, they have lost it, and we cannot allow them to be in our government. And this so upset Donald Trump that he took, like I said, with those tiny little fingers to say this. Everybody, Democrats, Republicans, liberals, and conservatives wanted Roe v. Wade terminated and brought back to the states. Donald, that is an absolute lie, and you know that to be true. With as little knowledge as you have, you still understand that overturning Roe v. Wade was a disgusting attack on women's reproductive freedoms, and it is the reason that abortion measures are being passed across the country, and we will reject you and the MAGA movement who look to strip our freedoms. And not only was Donald Trump upset about that truth bomb that Kamala Harris dropped on him, but he was furious about being called out for Project 2025, something he's trying to run away from. And so he said this, lying again about Project 2025, which she knows, and so do all Democrats, that I have absolutely nothing to do with. Yeah, when you type it in all caps and beg and plead for us to stop talking about it, Donald, it's not very believable that you know nothing about Project 2025. Everyone who worked in your past administration who already hasn't come out against you, you have two types of people who work for Donald Trump. The ones who have come out against him because they know he is a danger to this country, and those who have doubled down in his cult and are a part of Project 2025. Don't even try to deny it, Donald. We know they're lies. You just look dumb. And that's exactly how Donald Trump sounded when he posted this on Truth Social. A lot of talk about childhood. We've got to get to the border, inflation, and crime. As any acceptance speech would go, Kamala Harris first introduced herself and started to tell her story that has gotten her to the position that she is today, the Democratic nominee for president officially. Thank God. So exciting. But Donald Trump, you wanted substance? You wanted to talk about the border? Well, Kamala Harris did just that right here.
After decades in law enforcement, I know the importance of safety and security, especially at our border. Last year, Joe and I brought together Democrats and conservative Republicans to write the strongest border bill in decades. The Border Patrol endorsed it. But Donald Trump believes a border deal would hurt his campaign. So he ordered his allies in Congress to kill the deal. Well, I refuse to play politics with our security. And here is my pledge to you. As president, I will bring back the bipartisan border security bill that he killed, and I will sign it into law.
What a great reminder that Donald Trump killed the bipartisan border deal, not because he took any issue with it. It was written by some of the most, if not the most conservative Republicans in the Senate. Donald Trump killed it because he wanted the border to be an issue for his own political gain, because that is all he has ever cared about. He has only cared about himself. Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, they don't want to solve problems. They want to complain about them. They want to use issues. They want to attack and fearmonger. It's the only thing that they're able to do. It is the only thing that they are able to do. And we have to keep calling them out for it. We have to keep calling them out for their failures. And we have to keep calling them out for their extreme agenda that only benefits them and their rich friends. And that is exactly what Kamala Harris did right here.
He fights for himself and his billionaire friends. And he will give them another round of tax breaks that will add up to $5 trillion to the national debt. And all the while, he intends to enact what in effect is a national sales tax, call it a Trump tax, that would raise prices on middle-class families by almost $4,000 a year. Well, instead of a Trump tax hike, we will pass a middle-class tax cut that will benefit more than 100 million Americans.
Donald Trump wants another slew of big tax cuts for billionaires and the most giant corporations in America, while he makes everyday Americans, pick up the bill with tariffs that he wants to propose and pass that make no sense because they would damage the middle class, a middle class that Kamala Harris is fighting for. These are two completely different visions for America, and Donald Trump knows that. He knows he just wants to serve himself and his billionaire friends, but he lied saying this on Truth Social. She's talking about the middle class, but she's the one who broke the middle class and made it unsafe and unaffordable. Hey, Donald, remember the economy you crashed? Yeah, that made things unaffordable. And speaking of safety, violent crime is down to 50-year lows under the Biden-Harris administration and was at historic highs under your administration. The difference couldn't be more clear. We couldn't get the facts any straighter than they already are. This is a closed and shut case, both at home and abroad, which is exactly what Kamala Harris hit on right here.
5 days before Russia attacked Ukraine, I met with President Zelensky to warn him about Russia's plan to invade. I helped mobilize a global response, over 50 countries, to defend against Putin's aggression. And as president, I will stand strong with Ukraine and our NATO allies.
Kamala Harris will defend democracy and protect our allies across the globe, something that Donald Trump cannot say. But what he did say was this mess on Truth Social. Russia-Ukraine would never have happened or started if I was president. She was sent to try to stop it. Putin attacked 3 days later. This is just a blatant lie from Donald Trump. The only thing he is able to do is run his mouth, use his tiny little fingers, and push lies and anger and hatred and division. This is what the Donald Trump presidency was about. It was only 4 years ago. Don't we remember how terrible every day was? How divisive every day was? How dangerous every day felt because of Donald Trump in the White House, someone we could not trust to do anything but serve himself? Don't we want a better vision for America? Don't we want Kamala Harris's vision for America? That vision was perfectly put, and I'm so excited to show it right here.
We must be worthy of this moment. It is now our turn to do what generations before us have done, guided by optimism and faith, to fight for this country we love, to fight for the ideals we cherish, and to uphold the awesome responsibility that comes with the greatest privilege on earth, the privilege and pride of being an American.
The stakes couldn't be any clearer. The records couldn't be any clearer. The agendas couldn't be any clearer. The visions could not be clearer. Donald Trump wants to go back. We're not going to let him. Kamala Harris wants to move forward, and we're getting behind her. What an exciting night. Kamala Harris, officially the Democratic nominee for president. I am so excited. And if you are as well, we are going to be covering every second of this campaign going forward over the next 70-odd days right here on this channel. And if you want to support that, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. And if you watch to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. I want to thank you for your support. We have been covering the DNC wall to wall, and now we are going to cover the campaign wall to Tim Walz as vice president and Kamala Harris as president. We are going to keep fighting, and I appreciate the support. And until next time, I'll see you soon.